Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins entered this season with expectations as high as South Beach skyscrapers. But here we are in late September, and the conversation is less about playoff hopes and more about a quarterback dilemma that just refuses to go away. Let's be clear from the start. Tua Tagovailoa is not the only reason Miami is staring at an ugly 0-3 hole to open the 2025 campaign. There are offensive line injuries, questionable defensive breakdowns, and coaching adjustments that haven't worked out. But Tua is without question one of the central reasons, and the fact that he is such a big part of the problem makes the entire situation downright alarming for an organization that, just a little over a year ago, made the choice to fully commit to him as their franchise quarterback. The troubling part isn't just that Tagovailoa has been inconsistent. We already knew, from his Alabama days and through his early years in the NFL, that durability would always hover like a dark cloud over his career. The hip, the concussions, the ankle, the endless list of knocks and bruises. He was always a health risk, perhaps one of the most fragile starting quarterbacks in the league. But now the conversation isn't just about his body holding up, it's about his actual performance slipping. And that is a nightmare scenario for the Dolphins. Because if you're paying elite quarterback money, you can live with injuries as long as the performance when healthy is top tier. But when you're paying elite quarterback money and you're not even getting average play in the clutch, that's when an organization feels cornered. Let's rewind just a little to put this in context. In 2022, Tua led the NFL in passer rating. In 2023, he topped the league in passing yards. He had stretches where he looked sharp, decisive, accurate, like a surgeon slicing up defenses with anticipation and timing. He made the Dolphins' offense must-see TV, especially with TYREEK Hill turning every slant route into a foot race highlight. But even at his best, there were limitations. He didn't have the rocket arm. He wasn't elusive in the pocket. He wasn't going to give you the Mahomes-style improvisation. He had to win with rhythm, accuracy, and quick processing. And when that rhythm broke down, when the timing wasn't perfect, he could look ordinary, sometimes painfully so. That was always the fear. Now, through the first 3 weeks of 2025, those fears aren't theoretical anymore. They're reality. Against Buffalo, we saw the nightmare scenario unfold in real time. Late in the fourth quarter, with the Dolphins down 1 score and desperately needing their supposed franchise quarterback to deliver, Tua threw a back-breaking interception. Some blamed the play design, some blamed the decision-making, others pointed at Jalen Waddle's route. But the truth was simpler. The ball came out late. Waddle turned, expected it, and the throw wasn't there. That's not about scheme. That's not about receivers. That's quarterback play. And those are the moments that define why quarterbacks get $200 million contracts in the first place, because they're supposed to deliver when everything is on the line. And that leads us straight into the biggest problem of all, the contract. Miami didn't just commit to Tua, they handcuffed themselves to him. The guaranteed money is massive, the cap hits are brutal, and barring a miracle trade, the Dolphins are stuck for at least 2 more years. Cutting him next offseason would actually increase his cap hit from $56.4 million to $67.4 million, even with a post-June 1 designation. That's a financial anchor that could drown roster-building flexibility. We saw Denver bite the bullet with Russell Wilson, eating a historic amount of dead money just to escape. Could Miami follow that path? Sure, but it's not the kind of move you make unless you're absolutely certain there's no way forward. And right now, the Dolphins are in that murky in-between territory where Tua is not playing well enough to justify the deal, but not quite bad enough that you can throw your hands up and say it's over. That uncertainty is the cruelest place to live in the NFL. If a quarterback is great, you pay him. If a quarterback is a disaster, you cut ties. But when a quarterback is somewhere in the middle, with flashes of brilliance wrapped around frustrating lapses, that's when franchises lose years stuck in limbo. Just ask the Raiders, the Bears, or Washington, teams that live for seasons in quarterback purgatory, too scared to move on, too desperate to hope for a turnaround. Part of the issue with Tua right now is mental, not just physical. Watch him in the pocket. He's jumpy, almost skittish, like he doesn't trust the protection. And sure, the Dolphins' offensive line isn't the best in the league, especially with James Daniels and Austin Jackson now on injured reserve, but it's not atrocious either. Yet Tua is reacting as if every play is a jailbreak. Instead of stepping up into the pocket and delivering with anticipation, he's bailing backward, flushing left, and playing scared. That isn't the kind of mindset that wins games in this league. And NFL insiders like Tom Pelissero have pointed out something that makes this even more glaring. Mike McDaniel has to design an offense every single week with Tua's limitations in mind. No designed runs. No quarterback sneaks. No naked bootlegs. No zone reads. Basically, you're playing with half the playbook eliminated because your quarterback can't take hits. When that's the reality, the margin for error shrinks dramatically. And when the accuracy dips even a little, when the ball is late by half a second, when the precision isn't there, the entire offense collapses. It's fragile football, and fragile football rarely survives 17 games. That's what we're seeing now. It's not just that Tua is making mistakes. It's that the offense is built in such a way that when Tua falters, even slightly, the whole thing implodes. What makes this harder for Dolphins fans to stomach is the fact that the organization has been all in on Tua since hiring Mike McDaniel. McDaniel was brought in specifically to maximize him, to build an offense that hid his flaws and highlighted his strengths. For a while, it worked. By 2023, Tua was a Pro Bowl starter, and for the first time in his career, he went through a season without missing games due to injury. That gave the Dolphins the confidence to reward him with the contract, signaling to the fan base and the league that they believed he was the guy. But 2024 brought back the injury bug, along with a noticeable decline in downfield passing. And now 2025 has started as a continuation of the downward slope, with Miami not only winless, but also without answers. The worst part is the sense that we might have already seen the best of Tua. Maybe 2023 was the peak, a good season, statistically impressive, but not truly elite. Because when the Dolphins faced the best defenses, when they lined up against the playoff-caliber teams, the production never matched the hype. If that's the case, then Miami is locked into a quarterback who's already plateaued, while the rest of the AFC is headlined by guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and now emerging talents who look like they can carry their teams for years. So where do the Dolphins go from here? They're already 0-3, and history tells us only 4 teams since 2000 have climbed out of that hole to make the playoffs. The odds are brutal. The dream of finally winning a playoff game for the first time since the turn of the millennium feels further away than ever. And all of it circles back to the quarterback. If Tua doesn't improve, Miami's ceiling is capped, no matter how much speed they put on the field or how many creative schemes McDaniel draws up. If he does improve, even marginally, the Dolphins still face the reality that he might never be able to carry them in the way a true franchise quarterback must. The Tua dilemma is no longer just a talking point for fans and analysts. It's the defining storyline of the Dolphins' season and maybe their future. Stick with him, and you risk wasting prime years of an otherwise talented roster. Move on, and you trigger financial chaos and uncertainty at the most important position in sports. For now, the Dolphins are stuck hoping that the quarterback they committed to can rediscover the confidence, the accuracy, and the anticipation that once made him look like the future. But hope is a dangerous strategy in the NFL, and right now, it feels like that's all Miami has left. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? The NFL has always been a place where the spotlight is as blinding off the field as it is on Sunday afternoons. And once again, the Miami Dolphins find themselves right at the center of a storm that is shaking the league. The whispers started as little ripples, background noise about locker room tension, and some choice words from head coach Mike McDaniel. But those ripples have turned into crashing waves, and now the buzz around Miami is deafening. McDaniel, never one to shy away from speaking directly, reportedly went after Tyreek Hill in a way that stunned players, coaches, and executives alike. The alleged phrase making the rounds, spreading like wildfire across social media, sports talk radio, and behind closed doors in team facilities, is as sharp as it is damning. We don't want cowards who put their hands on women. Whether it was said verbatim, whether it was intended to be a private moment that leaked or a calculated message sent publicly, the weight of those words cannot be underestimated. Tyreek Hill has been one of the most explosive players in football since he first stepped onto an NFL field. His speed, his ability to turn a sliver of daylight into a game-changing touchdown, his presence as a constant threat have made him indispensable to every offense he's been a part of. The Dolphins gave up major draft capital and a significant contract to bring him to Miami, hoping he would be the missing piece that could transform their attack from good to unstoppable. And for a while, that's exactly what he did. Hill quickly became the heartbeat of McDANIEL's offense, electrifying crowds and terrifying defenses. But even as fans marveled at his athleticism, there has always been a shadow trailing close behind, a cloud formed by off-the-field controversies that never fully go away. It is this shadow that seems to have sparked McDANIEL's fiery condemnation, a reminder that in today's NFL, talent cannot always mask the headlines that linger outside the gridiron. The Dolphins are an organization that has been trying to reinvent its identity. For years, they were stuck in mediocrity, a team always searching for the next savior, the next coach, the next quarterback who could finally restore glory to South Beach. Then came McDaniel, an eccentric, cerebral coach with an aura that mixed strategy with personality in ways few had seen before. Players rallied around him, fans fell in love with his quirkiness, and the media celebrated his innovative schemes. But McDaniel has also been firm about building not just a winning roster, but a locker room with culture, with accountability, with principles that go beyond highlight reels. His reported comments about Hill fit right into that narrative. This is not simply about football. It's about sending a message, a declaration that the Dolphins will not allow off-field actions to undermine what they're trying to build. The rumor mill has churned this into something much bigger than an internal lecture. If McDaniel truly called Hill out in such explicit terms, it's not just a matter of disciplining a star player. It's an all-out challenge to the NFL's status quo. For decades, franchises have struggled to balance winning with morality, often choosing the former when push comes to shove. Too many times, players with histories of violence or off-field misconduct were given second, third, and fourth chances, as long as they kept producing on the field. But McDaniel's stance, as dramatic as it sounds, is a line in the sand. To call a superstar like TYREEK Hill a coward for alleged behavior is to strip away the protective shield that talent usually provides. It forces the conversation into the open, making everyone confront what they'd rather avoid. What makes this even juicier, from a media perspective, is the dynamic between McDaniel and Hill. The two have had visible chemistry on the sidelines. Cameras often capture them laughing, sharing moments of joy after big plays, or huddling together to strategize. Fans have seen Hill praise McDaniel's creativity, and McDaniel has never hesitated to highlight Hill's game-changing ability. For this relationship to suddenly fracture under the weight of such accusations feels like a seismic shift, like a crack in what many believed was one of the strongest coach-star bonds in the league. And in the NFL, when cracks appear, they don't stay hidden. They spread, they grow, and they threaten to break the whole structure. Around the league, executives and analysts are already speculating about what this means for the Dolphins. Does McDaniel have the full backing of the front office to confront a player of Hill's stature so openly? Is this a sign that Miami is preparing for a future where they might have to distance themselves from their most dynamic offensive weapon? Or is it simply a heated moment, a coach venting frustration that will ultimately be smoothed over behind closed doors? No one seems to have a definitive answer, but the uncertainty itself is enough to stir chaos. Fans are divided, some applauding McDaniel for taking a stand, others fearful that the team's Super Bowl aspirations could implode if star and coach are no longer aligned. It is worth noting that the NFL is not new to these situations. For every coach who speaks out, there are dozens who keep quiet, who look the other way, who chalk up off-field problems as distractions to be handled by PR teams. That's why McDaniel's reported words sting so much more. They cut through the usual corporate polish of the league. To use the word coward in this context is not simply descriptive. It is accusatory, personal, and deeply emotional. It suggests betrayal, a feeling that the player has let down not just the team, but also the values the organization is trying to uphold. And if this leak came from inside the locker room, if teammates themselves wanted the world to know what was said, then it raises another layer of drama. Maybe this isn't just McDaniel's stance. Maybe parts of the team are fed up, too. What comes next is anybody's guess. Hill is not a player who will simply disappear into the background. He is too loud, too visible, too essential to the Dolphins' identity both on and off the field. If he feels attacked, if he believes his character is being smeared by the very coach who is supposed to have his back, then we could be looking at a serious rift that spills into the season. Conversely, this could be the wake-up call that sparks change, that forces accountability, that aligns Hill with the standards McDANIEL is demanding. Either way, this isn't going away quietly. The NFL media ecosystem thrives on controversy, and this has all the elements of a saga that will dominate headlines. A superstar, a bold coach, moral outrage, team chemistry on the line, and the question of what matters most, winning or principle. The Dolphins fan base is restless. They've seen glimpses of greatness, only to have hopes dashed by injuries, inconsistency, or off-field chaos. This year was supposed to be different. This year was supposed to be the breakthrough. But now, instead of focusing on Tua's development, the defense's improvements, or the race for the AFC East crown, the talk of Miami is McDANIEL versus Hill, morality versus production, culture versus chaos. And in the NFL, perception is everything. If a team is seen as fractured, if opponents sense blood in the water, the psychological edge shifts. Rival coaches will watch closely, rival fans will pile on, and the pressure will mount with every passing week. At the heart of it all is the reminder that the NFL is not just about touchdowns and tackles. It is about people, about choices, about the values that organizations decide to live by. McDaniel's alleged outburst, "We don't want cowards who put their hands on women," is more than just a rumor. It is a test of how much the Dolphins truly value culture, a test of how far they're willing to go to uphold standards, a test of how resilient TYREEK Hill is in the face of public condemnation, and most of all, a test of whether winning really is everything, or if sometimes, just sometimes, principle can come first. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.